In previous episodes, what is note hypothecation and how it can work for you? Part 1 and Part 2, we discussed how you can pledge your real estate lien notes as collateral, how that affects your ROI, and how that can take your personal capital out of a deal and replace it with OPM or other people's money so that you can continue to invest deal after deal with basically the same amount of money in your pocket. It goes out, it comes back in. It goes out, it comes back in. This is a perfect way to invest. Today, in Part 3, we're going to talk about how and why to hypothecate an entire spreadsheet of notes. So stay tuned. You're going to find this very interesting. In the example that follows, I'm going to show you one of my real case studies where I hypothecated 35 notes to a community bank. In this case study, I'm going to show you the numbers, the terms, the savings, and some extra benefits that hypothecation can give you that you might not have even planned on. The very last time I hypothecated notes, I did it with a community bank. I was trying to refinance $1.8 million of my acquisition debt that I had borrowed from private lenders to buy the properties. The problem is I had already sold those properties, so I couldn't refinance the houses. I had to take the 35 notes that I had created, 35 notes where 35 of my buyers owed me money over a long period of time. I had to take those notes that they owed me and hypothecate them or pledge them for a loan to the community bank. Now I'm going to show you how it works by the numbers here, and I think you're going to appreciate this. You might want to get a pencil and paper, but stay with me. I'll try to go slow enough. I may even repeat myself a couple of times just so you get an understanding. But watch this. I bought 35 houses. I borrowed the money to buy those houses from private lenders, and I borrowed $1.8 million. Now, one of the things I did early in my career, because I needed to build up cash flow and I needed to build it quickly so I could quit my job, my job, and get independent, I started borrowing money interest only for a minimum of 5 years. So all these loans, all this $1.8 million was 5 years interest only. So I was going to the banks to hypothecate or to get a loan because I can't have interest only loans forever. You know, it has to end sometime because my buyers were on 30-year notes and they're decreasing their principal every year. So I borrow this money in the first lien position. So I go to my private lenders and I say, look, if you'll loan me $1.8 million, I'll give you a first lien on my house. There's always one borrower, me, one lender, them, and there's always one piece of property as collateral. And that's what keeps me from being SEC regulated, because it's a standalone loan. They either get paid or they get my asset. Now, I must say in my own self-defense, I've been doing this for over 20 years, over 2,000 houses. I owe right now $26 million to private lenders. Most of them I've owed the money for over a decade. They've loaned it to me, I've paid them back, they loan it back to me, I pay them back. Some of them I've borrowed from for 15 years, some 20 years, one even 30 years. People loan me money because I pay them back and I give them fair or better than fair rates of return, and I give them super collateral. And it's non-recourse. I put them in a first lien, non-recourse collateral only, meaning they either get paid as agreed or they get my property. I never borrow over 65% of what I can sell the property for, so they feel very protected. I average only borrowing 58% of what I can sell the property for. So they are very, very protected by collateral. So I have this $1.8 million at 8%. My payment is $12,000 per month or $144,000 per year. Then over a period of time, I sell all those 35 houses. I sold them for $4,040,000. But by the time I wanted to do this note hypothecation or pledge these notes as a loan to my bank, the property values had increased to $4,200,000. You know, properties usually appreciate over time, especially when people are homeowners and they add porches, they add pools, they put up fences, they pour concrete driveways. They make improvements when they own the home. And so the broker's professional opinion, based on recent comps, was $4,200,000. So I'm walking into a community bank saying, look, I got $4 million plus in notes, and the values of the houses is $4.2 million. All I want to borrow is 1.8 million. I want to pledge these notes right here for 1.8 million. That's like less than a 50% loan to value. The bank loves this. When I sold these, the sales prices were $4,040,000, but I collected $420,000 in down payments selling these 30 houses. And so they owed me $3.8 million every month. And when I collected the payments from these 35 people on this $3.8 million that they owed me, I was collecting $33,350 a month. Remember up here when I borrowed the money at 1.8, I owed $12,000 a month. If you're collecting $33,000 and you're paying out $12,000, you're netting $21,000 a month, and you got paid $420,000 in down payments to make that happen. I don't have a penny of my money in this whole plan. It's all OPM or other people's money. Okay, so I go and I pledge the $3.8 million worth of note balances I have. I pledge it for a $1.8 million note. The bank gives me 6% 15-year fixed. No adjustment, no balloon. That's pretty nice. So I went from 1.8 million interest only, which goes on forever. I converted it to 1.8 million at 6% fixed for 15 years. Now my payment used to be $12,000. It went up to $15,000. So I lost $3,000 of my $21,000 a month positive cash flow. So now with the bank loan, hypothecating my notes as collateral, I'm netting $19,000 instead of $21,000 because my payment went up $3,000. But I can forget about all this. So you see the savings. I'm saving money because this 8% goes on forever. Interest only goes on forever. I freed up 1.8 million of private money. Now I can go back to these people. I can start buying up the town again because I gave these people their money back. When the bank gave me the 1.8 million at 6%, 15 years, I had to give it back to all these people that loaned me this 1.8 million. So that's one of the benefits of hypothecation is you're replacing your private lender's money with bank money. So now you can go, instead of having to find new private lenders for the next house, you can go back to your old private lenders that already know you and already trust you. And this is an endless circle. If you only had 1.8 million of private lenders, you could go out and buy a bunch of houses with their money. Then you could go get a loan and give them their money back. Then you could go out and buy a bunch of houses with their money. And then you could get a loan and give them, you could buy the whole town, in theory. So I told you you're going to see the real numbers. So let's look at the real numbers. And I made a little mistake here earlier. You know, I had $12,000 a month payment, and then I went to $3,000 higher monthly payment. So I lost $3,000 off the $21,000 cash flow, which is, so now I'm netting 18, not 19, okay? But don't split hairs with me. Stay with the theory. Then the real terms. I was paying 8%, now I'm paying 6%. Well, if I'm paying less in interest when I get a loan from the bank, why did my payment go up $3,000? It's because I also have to pay principal over 15 years. So I'm paying principal and interest. Over here I was just paying interest. So that's why my payment went from $12,000 to $15,200, okay? So the real savings is 2% obviously on the interest rate. When you're paying down principal, that $3,000 per month, that's knocking my balance down. So the real savings is 2% plus $3,000 a month for 15 years. That's the real savings. It's 2% in the interest and $3,000 a month that doesn't show up in my cash flow, but it shows up in my net worth at the bottom of my financial because I owe $3,000 less every month, give or take a few. You know what I mean? It works out over the years. It never stays the same, but over the years. So the benefits of hypothecating this whole spreadsheet, number one, it's easier to go to a bank and try to hypothecate $1.8 million than it is to get a $100,000 loan from them. Banks don't want to mess around with a $100,000 loan. You go talking to them about a couple $1 million loan, they're going to go buy you some coffee, sit down, and want to see what you got going on. Because it's just as much work to do a $100,000 loan as it is to do a $1.8 million or $2.8 million loan for that matter. This hypothecation solved my interest-only dilemma. I sold these houses on 30-year notes. I have a loan that's 5 years, 8% interest only. There's a train wreck coming. Now, I did write in my blog at 1000houses.com an article on how I deal with these train wrecks where I'm borrowing money for 5 years and I have notes for 30 years to my buyers. It's called Why I Borrow at the Terms I Do. So you can go to 1000houses.com, check out that blog piece. I wrote everything I knew to write about it. And there are a lot of exits. This is just one exit out of this dilemma, this interest-only dilemma. And like I said, it also solves the balloon problem. I freed up $1.8 million worth of private money. Those people already trust me. They've already given the money at least once before. Now I can go back to them again and say, hey, let's do it again. As a matter of fact, this is the problem with paying private lenders back. They get mad at you. They get mad at you when you pay them back or you pay them off early because their money's not out making 8 or 9 or 10% or whatever your agreement is with them. Watch this. When you get a loan from a bank, they want to know when you're going to pay us off, when you're going to pay us off, when you're going to reduce the debt. When you get a loan from a private lender, it's, don't pay me off. Why are you paying me off? Keep it out. I'm living off this income. It's a very neat dynamic. And last but not least, a ramification that hardly anybody catches. It's a very good benefit for the people who bought my houses. You see, when I borrowed the money to buy these houses, I put my private lenders in the first lien position. When I sold this house to my buyer in a seller finance position, he's behind that first lien. Their note to me was in a second lien. This is a precarious, semi-dangerous position to be in because if I don't make my payments in the first, then this first lien holder can wipe everybody out in a foreclosure. When I pay this $1.8 million off, these people's note to me fall into the first position. The first position was the lenders. The second position was their note to me. When the lender gets paid off, the second automatically becomes the first. And now these people have no underlying debt threatening them. No one ever talks about that. Hardly anyone ever catches it. And my buyers, the people in the house, don't even know that I've done this for them. But it's a beautiful thing all the way around. I want you to go to 1000houses.com/free-stuff and scroll down until you see the free recorded Q&A call. And go there and click on that call and listen to how these phone calls go. We are all chiming in on all different kinds of subjects. You can see how the ebb and flows of these conversations go and ask yourself, would this be beneficial to do once a week? I'm sure the answer is going to be yes, because we have made a lot of money. And I almost forgot, there's still part 4 of what is note hypothecation and can it work for you? So stay tuned for this next episode and we'll put a big bow on this topic.